I've taught thousands of people to build with Claude Code from zero, and the ones who actually ship all set it up the same way, and everyone else just treats it like a chatbot. So here's how to set it up in 2026 so it stops over-engineering simple fixes and stops forgetting everything the second you close the window. I've got 10 hacks, and the first few you can install in under a minute. And the last one is the one that almost nobody does. And it's the difference between Claude starting a session from scratch every single time and getting smarter the more you use it. Okay, quick one before the next hack. I teach this stuff to thousands of people through my free content, but watching videos only gets you so far. The ones who actually walk away with working systems get there inside my private 90-day build intensive, where I've personally mentored over 50 students, most with zero technical background. They didn't need more information. They needed someone to get them through the parts that break. So the link is in the description if you want to see if you're a fit. Anyway, let's get back to it. So right now, there are basically two types of Claude Code users. The first type sits there approving every single permission one click at a time. And the second runs everything on auto mode, so that they can literally just tell Claude to build a project and it goes away and does the thing. Now, clicking approve on every single permission is what we used to do like 6 months ago. And if you were using Claude Code back then, you know exactly what I mean. But auto mode is now available to everybody. So on the Pro plan, as well as the Max plan, it's on desktop, it's on the terminal. So you can literally just shift the setting. You can see here on my terminal desktop, auto mode is on. You can do shift tab in the terminal and you can flick between the different modes. And then on desktop, you'll be able to just click the drop down at the bottom of the screen. So, but the reason why this is different from the dangerously skip all permissions, which is what people used to use to get over the accepting permissions hurdle, is that in auto mode, there are specific guardrails. So Claude is not going to be able to execute certain commands. And you can also add your own rules and tweak the settings in auto mode to keep your computer and your behavior inside of Claude Code less risky, more safe, and it's still going to block all the dangerous stuff. Now, the second feature, again, if you do shift tab, you're going to be able to find plan mode, right? A lot of people are not using this, and I don't know why, because Claude is great, right? It can do so much. And if you tell it and give it a task or a command or a prompt, it's going to go ahead and execute on that. And it's going to come back confidently with your results. Now, that doesn't mean what it's built is any good. And so how do we get better results with Claude? Well, we have to create a plan first. It's like when we're doing marketing or software development or basically anything, we need to plan things out first. And when you have a solid plan in place, it gives Claude a lot more direction, okay? You can make sure to read through the plan. I mean, I see this mistake a lot. People just hand over the reins to Claude Code. They see the plan that it's created. They don't read through it and they execute on it. And maybe it does build something cool and great and does what you want, but it's, in my opinion, it's so important to understand what's actually happening with your plan and with the build. So I think this is probably one of the most expensive mistakes you can make, because if you end up building something that is completely wrong or doesn't work, you're going to have to burn a ton more tokens fixing bugs and basically going in the reverse direction, which could have been saved with a plan. So forcing Claude Code to think first in plan mode, it's not going to build anything. It's not allowed to. All its focus is to build that plan and to have that plan approved by you. Cool thing is, once we've got that plan in place, it's going to give you some options. Approve and execute in auto mode, right? That's what we want, guys. That's exactly what we want to happen. We have the plan. Claude Code is going to build it in auto mode, hands-free. This is how you do real work inside of Claude Code. So the third hack, and this is pretty cool. Have you ever been in the middle of a Claude Code session and you've got to head out to a meeting, or you're going out to dinner, or fill in the blank? You've got stuff to do, and you're like, well, how can I continue my session? Well, you can. There is something called remote control, and it's at the bottom of the terminal, and you can do a command. You can just do / remote - control. And if you're in the terminal, you just enter the command and it's going to give you a link. Now, you don't necessarily need to click the link, because I've just done it in my terminal and I've got a notification here saying that I can continue my session inside of the Claude app on my phone. So if I go over to the app on my phone I can go over to the Claude Code tab and you can see remote control connecting. If you can see that on my camera there, and it's going to connect directly to the session you were running in your terminal. So when you head out, like for me, I'm going to jump in a taxi, I'm going to ride maybe 20 minutes to where I'm going. I want to continue the session, maybe if I'm not finished. So this is just a great way to continue working on what you want to work on and to connect your session over on your phone. And it's the same thing in desktop. You just use the same / remote control and you're going to be good to go. So hack number 4, and this is something I use on basically every single build that I do. It's called the Superpowers plugin. I didn't invent it myself, unfortunately, but this is going to give, the hint is in the name, it's going to give Claude superpowers. And I'm not just hyping this up. This is probably the best build tool or plugin that I've come across. And I've tried a few of them. I've tried GSD, the Get Shit Done plugin, and I found that to be a little bit too bloated. It took a very long time to get to the point where we're actually going to build something. Whereas Superpowers, if you're brainstorming and then you get a plan and then you create an implementation plan and then you set the implementation plan off with parallel agents. I think this is super cool. I'm going to show you how to set this up. So this is the Superpowers GitHub. I'm going to put the link in the description. You don't need to understand everything that's on here. You just go over to the README and you're going to be able to read exactly what this does. And you can see that it works across all of the different tools that we've got. Claude Code, the Claude Code CLI. It works on desktop and it works in the terminal. That's all you need to know. If you want to read a little bit more about what it does, you can here. But I'm going to take you through the skills that you're going to give Claude Code access to. So let's take a look at Claude Desktop first. You might be using it here. Where I would go is I go to Customize, and you can see I've already got it installed here because I use it. But all you'll need to do is you go to Browse Plugins, and then you'll search Superpowers, and it should show up in the search. Now, I have worked with some people where it hasn't shown up in the search, and I'm going to give you the workaround, and it does involve using the terminal. So let's take a look here. You can see it's given us 14 skills and 1 hook, which now you might not need all of these skills. The ones that I use the most are brainstorming. This is a fantastic way to just get started with superpowers. Similar to plan mode, we'll be honest. We're also going to get into writing plans and sub-agent driven development. We can do code review. Those are kind of the top level one. Executing plans as well, dispatching parallel agents. These are all the ones that I use pretty much day to day, depending on what I'm building. So this is how we get it installed inside of Claude Desktop. If we're using the terminal, like me, I'm over here in Warp, and I've got my Claude Code terminal here. What I would then do is I would grab this link here, this command / plugin, install superpowers, right? I'm not going to run it because I've already installed it, but you would run this. And now if that doesn't work, you can also just run this marketplace command here and then go ahead and install this right here. So just depends what's going to work out for you. In any case, it's just a few lines. It's copy and paste. You can go ahead and do that. And then over in Claude Code, let's just delete that. We can do / superpowers, and you can see it's listing all of the skills that we've got here. Now, you don't need to do the / command to use superpowers. Often when I'm building, I might just mention the word, hey, I'm just brainstorming this idea, or let's create a plan for this. And by default, it will pick up those keywords and actually invoke these skills automatically, right? That's what you want really from a tool like this. So let's test it out. So I am going to use the / command because let's just try this out. And you can just hit enter and then it'll give you a description here of like what this skill is going to do. And then I'm going to voice note in with an idea. So I want to create an ad campaign for a engraving pen. So I'm going to use Facebook ads. I need ideas for like angles of the ad copy and the images and everything that goes into the ads, the targeting, all of that stuff just for Facebook ads. So this is just an example idea that I do actually have an engraving pen here on my desk. But you can use this for whatever you want, whether it's software, whether it's marketing, whether it's content, whether it's organizing your files on your laptop, absolutely everything. Okay, so typically in the brainstorming phase, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. So I'm going to answer these, send off the message, and I'll come back to you when we're at the next phase. So we've got some more question gates here. I'm going to run through these, submit it, and then continue. You can see we've got it in auto mode. So it's only going to ask me these questions and then continue building out the plan. Okay, boom. So we do have a plan now. So you can see Etchwell, Facebook ads campaign. We've got a big idea audience. We've got some ad copy ideas here. And again, I could plug this into some of my copywriting skills to improve this copy, but this is just like a first pass. Now you can see at the bottom, once you sign off, I'll write it up as a spec file and move to the implementation plan. So that's how we move through the pipeline here inside of Superpowers. Now I'm not going to demo the whole thing, otherwise we'll be here for quite a while, but you could see how this is going to move forward. Once we get the implementation plan, it's going to say, do you want me to build it in auto mode? So it's going to go ahead, build up in auto mode, and it'll spin up a multiple sub-agents to do the build for you. And you just sit back. There's going to be a checklist on the screen. And you can see here in one of my other projects, you can see there's checklists, tasks to be done, which tasks are in progress. And this was invoked just by me working on one of my projects. I didn't use the / command in this project. Now, hack number 5 is the Karpathy CLAUDE.md file. Now, what a CLAUDE.md file is essentially a list of instructions. This is what Claude reads inside of your project before it does anything. So it's pretty important here. You have some rules and some guidelines of what the project actually does. And so Andre Karpathy, if you've not heard of him before, he came up with the Wiki LLM, also known as one of the founders of OpenAI. So pretty well-respected guy, and he does a lot of AI research. And he ended up coming up with this pretty simple, kind of genius Claude.md file. Now, I'm going to put the link to this GitHub below, and also the article that I wrote over on my blog that goes into detail about, what a Claude.md file is, what's a Karpathy CLAUDE.md file, what are the 4 rules, how do they work, should you copy it, where does the MD file fall short, and all of this stuff, right? So there is 4 main rules, okay? Think before coding, so don't assume, don't hide confusion, and surface trade-offs, right? These are things that might be happening in the background that you might not be fully aware of. So it's like bring these up and think before coding. This ties into what I was saying earlier about the plan mode and brainstorming. The second rule is simplicity first. So use minimum code that actually solves the problem, nothing speculative. Rule number 3, surgical changes. And this was such a big thing, even like 6 months ago when you were using Claude Code, it would go in and change like other files that you never asked it to do. And it still does it today to a lesser extent. But if you have this rule in here, it's only going to touch the files that you want it to touch, right? Rule number 4, goal-driven execution. Very much like Superpowers, where it lists the tasks and the goals of what you're trying to achieve. This is important. So define the success criteria and loop until verified. Very similar to the /goal command inside of Claude Code, which basically you set the goal and Claude Code is going to work and iterate and keep going until that goal criteria is met. So these are the 4 rules. It also goes into a bit more detail here in the GitHub, but at the end of the day, you can grab them, you can put them in your Claude.md file, and you can decide if they're going to be helpful for you or not. I have a bunch of different things in my Claude.md file, so it's going to be kind of specific for your situation and use case. And if you're already using Claude Code and you have a project and you have a Claude.md file, you might just want to speak to Claude, copy and paste this in and say, hey, I want to include these rules. How are we going to merge them into our existing Claude.md file? So hack number 6 is turning your processes into skills. So there's probably things that you do day to day over and over again. And this is where Claude skills come in really handy. Instead of having to manually go through the same thing over and over again inside of Claude Code, where you might be pulling data from a spreadsheet and then analyzing that data and putting it into a report, you could do that with a skill. Same thing with creating content. I mean, I have this content-create skill that I set up for me using my own process. So if I hit enter on that, it's now going to ask me questions of what I want to create. And typically I'll invoke the skill, drop in my YouTube transcript, and boom, it's going to work through a whole process of generating like 20, 30 different hooks using the hook frameworks and formulas that I've already put inside of the skill. And then it's going to evaluate those hooks based on direct response marketing principles. It's going to give me a score out of 10 on 4 different criteria. Now, if I was to do that manually, that would be pretty insane. But once I've selected the hook manually, this is the human in the loop effect, because I don't want Claude deciding what's the best hook, because often it's not going to decide the best one for me. I'm a copywriter. I've been in marketing for a long time, for 10 plus years. So I kind of know what's going to work. And then it's going to basically write the body content. And then we're going to get into the image creation, which I also have an AI image factory. And so if I hit that, it's then going to send off a prompt and spin up multiple different variations of images. Now, I've collected images from ads, from other people's posts, from my own posts that have done well. I've put those in a folder and I've had Claude analyze those images and then create recipes for images for my social media posts. That's how this works. It pulls from the recipes and gives me like 5 or 6 different images, and it's connected up to file.ai with the OpenAI image model number 2. Now, I have a ton of different skills here, everything from that. I mean, this is more of an agent, but yeah, lots of different skills and stuff inside of here. I mean, so got got the email writing skill, got the humanizer, the newsletter, direct response copy, magnetic copy, Instagram carousel, all of this stuff. So you can create a skill for whatever you need, but it does take a bit of time. And there is a skill creation skill inside of the desktop app. I think it's probably accessible on Claude Code as well. I've just never really used it. But you can come into your skills and you can see what's already installed here. You see I've got a lot of N8N ones. And I think there is, let's see, a skill creator. Right, this is one of the defaults from Anthropic. And you can just tap in here and say, hey, can you use the skill creator skill to help me write my own skill? And that's going to help you on that process of creating your own. So go ahead and try this today. There's tons of skills online that you could just pull from yourself, sure. But creating your own with your own processes is, in my opinion, the best way to go. Because you're not relying on someone else's process. You don't know how good it is. I've installed a ton of skills and I end up just deleting most of them because they're just not good enough. They don't have my personal context. And that's important. So the next thing you've probably seen me do in multiple videos, if you've been watching my channel, but if you're new here, I use Wispr Flow. And if I just hit FN and spacebar on my computer, you could see, boom, this little bar appears at the bottom and I can start talking. And if I want to just give a ton of context, I just ramble and rant into Claude Code and then I press FN again, the recording stops. I press where I want the text to go and boom, the text appears. And it's also cleaning up my text as we go. So if I go into my Wispr Flow dashboard, you can see here my insights. So I'm talking at 108 words per minute. And I would guess that's way faster than I'm able to type. And it's probably the same situation for you. If you want to provide AI with more context and you want to get better results, just talk to it. Just ramble for like, the maximum you can record here is 6 minutes. So that you're going to be able to get a lot more information in the same amount of time than if you were working with your fingers. Now, you might be thinking, well, what? I'm in an office. I don't want to be talking to my computer. And what you can do is you can plug in your headphones and you can whisper into your mic. That's why it's called Wispr Flow. That is literally why it's called that. So you can whisper into your mic. So you're not loud. People might think you're a bit weird, but at the end of the day, you're the one getting the productivity gains, not them. So you can see here, total words dictated over like 681,000. And you can see the fixes made. So it's going to fix the grammar, some of the spelling, things like this. And occasionally it does get things wrong. I'm not going to lie, but for me, it's the best tool out there. It's going to help the builds that you do with AI 100%. So hack number 8 is the token optimizer. This is super cool. And one of the things, if you start using Claude Code and you're installing skills and MCPs, you're going to end up with quite a bloated context window because Claude is going to load up those MCPs and skills inside of every context window and chat that you use. So, and the other thing is your Claude.md file, right? That can get bloated and it needs to read that file first, eating into your tokens of each session. So if I come here in Warp, you can see here, I'm using 6%. Right, and this is just from putting in the content create skill. So if I start a fresh session, you're going to see at the bottom, I'll just put hi, and we'll see what context we've got here in a fresh session. But yeah, 5%. Now, some of my students, they're starting with like 15% of their session filled up already. And the thing is, when I get to about 35, 40% of my context window, I'm creating a handoff file and I'm clearing that context, because any further than that, you're just going to end up using a ton more usage. So this is the dashboard. Once you install Token Optimizer, and again, I'm going to put the link below. I found this in a school group that I'm in, and honestly, it's one of the best ones that I found. It's going to help you optimize your token usage. I mean, the name says it all, right? And so it's going to give you some quick wins, some medium things to do, some deep things to do, some habits, your health. And the crazy thing is, it's going to tell you how much you would be spending on tokens if you were getting billed on your usage, right? This is pretty crazy. Let me show you, right? Last 30 days, you could see $140 of token usage. Now, I'm not paying $140 per month. I'm paying like £100 per month for my max plan. Now, if I was to get billed based on my actual usage and the actual tokens I'm using, I'd be paying over $2,000, which is pretty insane. And that's me with the Token Optimizer like fully installed and optimized. So you come in here, you've got the overview, total session overhead, save up to 30% more tokens, etc., etc. You can see this is what I was talking about at 1.9% before you start. And this goes down to your Claude.md, your memory, your skills, your commands, your MCP tools. All right, so you're going to be able to optimize in here. It's going to show you skills that you're not using, MCPs that you're not using. So highly recommend you check this out. So hack number 9 for today is self-running scheduled agents. Now, you can set these up in Claude Code with Python scripts, daily run times. But in Claude Code Desktop, it's super simple. We've got this routines tab here, and you can actually just set up a routine here with a new routine. You can use it locally on your device, or you can actually set one up remotely. And you can see here, create templated routines that can be kicked off on a schedule. So this is like a cron job. So if you want to run, like you can see here, a weekly revenue report every Monday at 8 a.m., you can set up a skill or an automation. You can hook it up with different tools and MCPs, and you can have that run on a schedule. Pretty cool. There is a limit here, right, for the daily runs. You see here, we've got calendar. The best thing about this is running it remotely, because the issues that I've had is if you're running something on a schedule on your laptop, you can sometimes run into the issue of the fact that if your laptop isn't open and it's trying to run the schedule, then it's not going to work. This is why people get Mac Minis. They're able to have things running 24/7. And so there is a way around it, but much easier to get it hosted in the cloud. So this is how we turn our skills and our workflows. We can add that agentic source. Like what that means to me is that the agent is going to do something on a continual basis. It's going to run without you. So running this skill or running an automation or workflow on a routine is adding that agentic piece to the puzzle. So if you have something that you want to run day to day or week to week, definitely give this a whirl. And if you're unsure on how to set this up, like it's super simple. You can just chat here with it, or when you've built a skill or you want to run something on a weekly basis or daily based on a conversation you've had with Claude and the work that you've done in Claude Code, you can just tell it, hey, can you run this on a routine at this time? And it's going to schedule it inside the routines for you. Okay, so final hack number 10. And I did say that most people don't set this up, and it's called persistent memory, or AKA second brain. Now, you've probably heard that buzzword online being thrown around, but what does it actually mean? Well, it's essentially your context layer. Without context, meaning all of the information about you and your business and the processes and fill in the blank. Context can mean anything related to your business. And so when people say they're building a second brain, well, all it is a collection of files on your computer. It's nothing more complex than that, in my opinion. And you can see the tool that I'm in right now is called Obsidian. And a lot of people are saying, build your second brain in Obsidian. And I've been using Obsidian for a long time. And all it is a file viewer, right? And the cool thing is you can connect and interlink different files, right? So that's great. And you can create a whole memory system with QMD for this, which I'm not going to get into right now. But all it is files and folders. There's no fancy business going on here. You can see I've got files in this, what's called a vault, right? And so you can create different vaults for different projects. And you can see here, you just come in and everything is in Markdown, right? And so once you start using Claude Code, you save the work that you're doing. So if you're creating content, you save the content into your files. If you're creating a voice profile, you save that. Claude.md file gets saved into your folder. If you want to create a business profile, a branding profile, you can see over here in Warp, right? Let's just bring up another empty window. You can see here in Warp, this is a tool that I use now with Claude Code. It's my favorite. It's my daily driver, let's say. And you can see here, I've got my folder and you can see all the hidden files as well as all the regular files. If I come into branding, you can see I've got my assets, my voice, we've got a hand over here, which I use pretty often. We've got a brand spine. So information about my brand. What else have we got in here? The brand CSS, right? So this is including like the colors and my fonts and the background and borders and all of this stuff for design. So if I go over to my website, you could see here, in my opinion, this doesn't look vibe coded, even though it was coded using Claude Code. And so I've got this design framework that it's pulling from. It's pulling these fonts and these sizes from that framework. And so when I create other pages and funnels, it's going to pull the same design framework. And so this is my second brain. This is all of my files that I work with. And so when I'm talking with Claude Code, I can say, hey, reference this work that we did. You know, I've created this email newsletter last week, pull the same structure. And so I'm able to reference file, like I can even just pull files into here, right? If I want, or I can just reference them by name or just by association with what I'm talking about. Right? That's how you get the most powerful information from Claude Code. And in here, right, if I just go to this homepage copy, you can see the MD file is going to open up in this window here. So I think this is really cool, having your files, your Claude Code session, and then your files here opening up, and even scripts will appear here. And if you want to open up images, click on it, boom, the image opens up. So this is the setup that I'm working with. I love this. Don't get confused and overwhelmed about your second brain. It's literally just the context that you have that you can inform your future builds and chats. Make sense? Awesome. So those are the 10 hacks. Set them up and Claude Code stops becoming a chatbot and starts running like a system. Now, if you want to go further than what I've just shared with you today and actually map out what to automate in your business and build the systems yourself, that's what I do inside my 90-day private build intensive. We build your first agent together one-on-one on a call. Yes, with me. And you learn Claude Code by building, not by studying. Then you build the next 2 or 3 yourself using the group calls and a second one-on-one to get you unstuck. You go from Tom built one of these with me to I can build these myself. And by the end, you're connecting systems, debugging your own builds, and you're the person everyone in your business asks about AI. It is limited to just 10 spots and it's by application only because I read every single one myself. And if that sounds like you, the link is in the description. And if this video helps you, go and watch the next one here. Thanks for watching. Later.